December 25, 1991, as families across America unwrap Christmas presents, a man sits alone in the Kremlin, preparing to dissolve the most powerful empire of the 20th century. With a single televised speech, he will make himself the last leader of the Soviet Union. But here's what history books won't tell you. He never intended for any of this to happen. This is the story of Mikhail Gorbachev, the man who tried to save communism and accidentally destroyed it. Trueline, 1931. A village so remote that Stalin's man-made famine would kill Mikhail's uncles and aunts while the world looked away. But in this crucible of suffering, something unexpected was forged, not hatred for the system, but an unshakable belief that communism could be perfected. Moscow, 1953. As Stalin's body lay in state, a young law student named Mikhail Gorbachev was falling in love. But this wasn't just any romance. Raisa Titarenko would become the first Soviet First Lady to step out of the shadows. Their partnership would reshape not just their lives, but the fate of nations. By 1985, the Soviet Union was dying. The economy had flatlined, the military was losing ground. And in the deepest irony of all, the man chosen to save communist orthodoxy was someone who had already decided it needed to change. Gorbachev faced an impossible choice: preserve the system and watch it collapse, or reform it and risk everything. Geneva, November 1985. Two men from completely different worlds, a Hollywood actor turned president and a Soviet lawyer turned premier, sat down to possibly prevent nuclear war. What happened next shocked their own advisors. They actually liked each other. But liking each other and trusting each other were two different things entirely. April 26, 1986, 1:23 a.m., Reactor 4 explodes at Chernobyl. In the control room, engineers scramble to understand what's happening. In Moscow, Gorbachev faces his first real test. His response to this disaster wouldn't just affect Ukraine, it would determine whether his reforms would accelerate or die. He chose transparency. That choice would ultimately doom the Soviet Union. November 9, 1989. A simple bureaucratic error about border crossings triggers the unthinkable. Thousands of East Germans rush to the Berlin Wall. Guards, confused and overwhelmed, step aside. The symbol of the Cold War begins to crumble, piece by piece. In Moscow, Gorbachev watches his greatest achievement unfold, the peaceful end of Europe's division. He doesn't yet realize he's watching the beginning of his own political end. August 18, 1991. Crimea. Gorbachev is on vacation when the call comes. Men he trusted, men he appointed, men who owed their careers to him, are at his door. You're relieved of your duties. They say the obelisk has begun. But they made one fatal miscalculation. They underestimated Boris Yeltsin and the power of the changes Gorbachev had already unleashed. December 25, 1991. The Kremlin. Gorbachev signs his resignation letter, officially ending the Soviet Union. Outside, the hammer and sickle flag is lowered for the last time. He had sought to reform an empire. Instead, he had presided over its dissolution. History would remember him as the man who ended the Cold War. Russia would remember him as the man who gave away their superpower status. Mikhail Gorbachev's story poses an eternal question. Is it better to be a successful reformer or a failed revolutionary? He chose gradual change in a system that demanded total transformation. His tragedy was also his greatness. He proved that even the mightiest empires can end without bloodshed if someone has the courage to let them go. But here's what I want to know from you. Was Gorbachev naive to think he could reform the Soviet system without destroying it? Or was he the only leader wise enough to let it collapse peacefully? And in our own time, as we watch other systems strain under pressure, what can we learn from the last Soviet premier? Share your thoughts below. And if you're drawn to these stories of leaders who changed history in ways they never intended, there are more untold stories waiting in Trueline files.